Be more of you. Be more of you. Yep, I know. Be more of you. And he did this big, like, expand yourself into all of you. Because what's possible for him in his life is equally possible, like what he said earlier. It's equally possible for all of us, but we don't all come knowing that. So what if we knew that is possible for us? Maybe not to be famous, but to expand into that space. What's possible if you just take one step into that greater space? And that's the work that he and I have been doing. He's helped me expand into a greater space.
This is specifically what he asked me to talk to musicians about money and music, right? Mm-hmm. It's something that he was really passionate about, because there's a really huge thought form out there that says, don't give up your day job. You're never going to make money as a musician. Mm-hmm. You can't do what you love. And he says that's absolute rubbish.
Yep.
That's absolute rubbish. And he says that you've got to let go of that. You've got to let go of that and be as confident about making money with your music as you are as confident about making the music.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
You got to accentuate the positive. I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
There you go. Hello and welcome to the show, Accentuating the Positive with Karen Swain. So great to have you with us again. We're going to have a chat with Prince today. He's been very chatty since he's left his body. There's quite a few people channeling him on the net. And I'd love to introduce you to Lisa Wechtenhiser.
Yay, that's it. Yay.
Who is an intuitive and an intuitive business coach, actually, and a channel. And he's been chatting away to Lisa, and she's got a whole group. And we've got our purple on today, both of us. We're doing the purple. We're doing the purple rain.
We're ready.
He's been very chatty this morning to me too. Welcome to the show, Lisa.
Thank
so great
you.
to
I'm
be
so
on.
glad to be here. Yay.
I want to talk a little bit about your journey, but let's go over how Prince introduced himself to you. I know you were a fan of his, a big fan of his. I was not, so it was quite strange to talk. I never thought about Prince in my whole life, except that maybe when I was young and then when he died. So how did he introduce himself to you?
Well, it was just kind of a strange thing. Like I said, I have been following him for a very, very long time. And I was at the computer when I got the news from Paisley Park, so I kind of commiserated with everybody online. And I decided that instead of just sitting in my house crying, maybe I would go out to a store and buy something that might make me feel better. So I went into my car in the driveway, and I opened my car door, and I heard a voice say, "Hi." And I knew right away it was him. And I don't know how I knew, I just knew. And so I was actually kind of rude to him. And I said, "Oh, no, I'm not having any of this with you. I'm mad at you that you just died. You're going to have to go away." And he said, "I was just coming around to say hi to people." I'm like, "Well, you can take yourself with your hi and go away, and I'll talk to you another day." And so he was like, "Okay." So I got in the car and drove down the road to go to a store. And when I was in the store, it's the one that has kind of a lot of notebooks and things into it, and I'm always looking at notebooks. And one fell on the floor, and when I picked it up, it was a purple notebook, and on the front it said Purple Rain. And I said out loud in the store, "I told you to go away." And he said, "Fine, fine, fine." So he did. And I'm like, I am just like busy telling off the dead Prince now in the store. But I was really shaken up. And so that was kind of my introduction to him. I had to do some grieving because it brought up a lot of other grief that I apparently like hidden or did something with, suppressed. It came up. I listened to this one, his last show where he played Purple Rain, and it was this beautiful, ethereal, just him and a piano singing and the whole audience singing. And I listened to that on repeat for hours and until I processed whatever it was. Then I was like, okay, come on back. Let's do what we're going to do.
Oh, I know. Death does bring up a lot of grief, but it's
Mm.
funny when you can talk to them on the other side why you would still grieve, because you've still got that connection.
Right.
Actually, you know what's really interesting with celebrity, we know when they leave their body, if you're intuitive or a channel, you've got access to them, and you never had access while they're in their body. So there's more of a relationship with them after they leave their body than before.
Absolutely.
Although they leave behind all their incredible work and, of course, their life journey and their story. And I ask people online to ask questions. I've got a couple of questions that people have asked. But let's get into your story. How did you find out that you could talk to people on the other side?
That's interesting.
Who've left their body.
Yeah. When I started taking Reiki, and I hear this from so many people, apparently Reiki like blows your circuits wide open. And so
it's definitely an initiation, isn't
it is. It really is.
It's an initiation,
And I was not a good Reiki practitioner because I couldn't stop talking while this poor person's on the table. And I'm like, oh, your mother is coming to me and she's saying, and do you want to hear this message? And I was like, okay, I got to ditch the Reiki and go on and do something else. And so it was really, my goddaughter passed away in 2006. And she was the first voice that I heard from the other side, like the official voice that I heard from the other side. And then like the doorways opened, the Reiki, the goddaughter, and the doorways just kind of came open. So people often like friends or my relatives, before they leave, they'll come rolling through, mostly in the bathroom. I do not know what it is about the bathroom, but they love to come visit me when I'm in the bathroom. And I'm just like, I'm busy at the moment. And they're like, well, we just have a message. We just want to say something. Okay, then. So I'm thankful Prince shouldn't visit me in the bathroom. But that's kind of how I started hearing it. Mostly I hear guides and teachers and spirit. And I am trained in mediumship, but I kind of do it my own way. And so I was as shocked as anybody when he came to me. I will tell you that, true.
So is he the only celebrity that came to you, or?
No, Carrie Fisher rolls in because we do these sessions where I bring Prince in and he talks to the people in the group. And sometimes we have guest stars in our show. And Carrie Fisher has come in twice. And her energy is so different than his that it's like a whole different person comes rolling through. She's come in right when Greg Allman died. He came into it, but he didn't say much of anything. So no, I don't usually connect with celebrities. This was the first one.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, he's very chatty. Like gosh, yeah. When you're connected, and there's something that I want to reiterate because they've said this to me. There's no other side. How could you call it the other side when we're sitting right here next to you? And I'm like, that's true. That's true. Just our language, right? We've got to try and define it. But there's no other side. I'm here on your side, right here next to you, just a different frequency, a different vibration, a different frequency, but still here. And so when you have connection, when you've raised your vibe as much, so that you can hear them or see them, you have access all areas. And I've had a few chats with a few people that have left simply because I had a question. Like you see it on the news and then I go, I wonder why he left his body at this time. And then he comes in and he says, you want to know? Like, oh, yeah. Why? So I've had chats with a few people like that. Not that I've needed to or wanted to. And that's the beauty, if people want to talk to celebrity or anyone on the other side, you've got to get rid of the need or the want to talk to them. That's where a lot of people, I really need to connect with my dead relative or son or the rock star or whoever it is that you're grieving over. The grief won't let you connect. But you said that you were in grieving though when he came in.
I was hardcore. Like I am pretty sure that I went into shock, physical shock, and I had no idea why. Part of me was like, what is going on with you? Do you realize you're in some weird space? And the other part of me is like, yeah, I know. What is that about? But I really went into a weird shock. And what I came to understand for me, and this may not be true for anybody else, but he and I have had a agreement to work together. And my shock was about, oh yeah, it's go time. But I wasn't ready for go time. So I was like taken out of my body, like, oh, because my soul understood, like, hello, we're going to start moving now. And so it took me a while to kind of catch up to that. And then once I got there, I was fine. But that's what I think for me, that's what that shock was about. Like, okay, this agreement is now in force. Okay,
yeah.
Whatever that is.
Press the red button.
Yep, exactly.
Take off.
That's right. Let's go. We're going. We're moving. Yeah.
Well, he's very excited actually that there are, because he has that agreement with a lot of people.
Yes, he does.
And he's very excited about working with people. And he came to me, you know, the reason we're connected, so this is, I'll tell people why we're connected. One of the people that is in my inner sanctum, Jenny, who's also works with you, found me through a channeling I did of Prince on Soul Traveller Radio, because we did a whole show, 2-hour show on Soul Traveller Radio dedicated to Prince. And I wanted to find someone to channel Prince and I couldn't find anybody. So I just did it myself, but I don't really put myself out there as a channel of celebrity. And she found me through that. But he said to me that he really wants to work with specifically musicians, but anyone really, because he's passionate about them being empowered and being able to make a life and a living from their work. That's something that he said to me. He's really passionate about that. And he asked me to, you know, get that message out specifically to conscious musicians, not just any musicians, but conscious musicians. He's passionate about having music as a tool for enlightenment and upliftment. And funnily enough, that's what he did with his music. Although I never saw that. I really didn't. When I saw Prince, I was like, oh, yeah. I didn't think much of him at all. Sorry about that, Prince. He says that.
Yeah, he said that's fine.
You know, he came to me this morning in his voice, and it was when I was sweeping the floor. He's chatting away, but in his voice, I could hear his voice, which is not normally how I hear. I just hear thoughts in my head, they're just, and they're not in his voice, but he comes. He's a really powerful.
Oh yeah, that energy is big. It is big.
Big.
Yeah, when I first started to channel him for 90 minutes, it would take me a day and a half to recover because it was such big energy for me to hold for 90 minutes. And then I heard, a friend of mine, when she does mediumship readings, she drinks a lot of water. She like loads up on water the week ahead of time. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. So I did, like I front loaded water like you wouldn't believe. And that took care of it. That completely took care of it. I was fine.
That took care of the headache.
Yeah, because I was out. I was like, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck the first time. Because I didn't know what to expect. I had done it one-to-one with people, and that was fine. But 90 minutes with 6 people in the group. So I'm doing a group reading and 6 people. Oh my God, it was huge energy.
This is with Prince.
Yeah.
Okay, so what message did he give you? What did he want to teach people? So you call him Ascended Master Prince.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's what I understand his energy to be, and that he's from the same soul lineage as Merlin and Count Saint Germain. That whole group. He's in that same lineage. Like when somebody said to me, you know, he was Count Saint Germain, and I'm like, hello, Violet Flame, hello, yes. And Count Saint Germain was a musician as well in the 1700s. I'm like, okay, that makes perfect sense. So in that status, that's how I bring him to. What's he say? Is he trying? What?
Well, he's like so enthusiastic. I'm like, I'm trying to talk to Lisa.
He likes to butt in on everything. Sorry.
Just telling me what he specifically, like, because when you talk, I ask questions. I can't help it. I have a really, I wonder wwhy. And then when I ask the question, he answers. So I'm having a 3-way conversation here.
Yep.
About how he came to empower specifically. He came in a black body. And he really came to teach empowerment, and he came to teach it to people that felt disempowered, which was the black population. Oh, it's making me cry. Anyway, I don't want to take over this. I'm like, you're the one channeling today.
Well, but he also works with people to embody their potential. And he shows them how he embodied it, his potential, and how can they step it up to what do they need to do in their life to more fully embody that. And that's the work I do with people. So that fits really well. I'm sure that's why I bring them through in my work, because it expands what I can do with people with his energy. You know? And so a lot of times he'll give somebody what we call the purple boot up the butt if he thinks that they're not doing all they can do. And he will lovingly show them there's more, you could do more, step it up, step up 2 steps. And he tells them how to do that. Here are some things you can do. So because I'm this way, I'm very practical. When I bring guidance through, it's not like, oh, you have a lovely aura. No, it's like, tell me what are my next 2 action steps that I can take if I choose to. And that's really the way that he is with people too. So through me, we work to help people step into their potential and their own empowerment. Like, he is never one to want anybody to rely on him. None of that. Like, he wants them to see their potential, and he supports that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what was he saying the first time he came through powerfully that, knocked you out? What was his message to that group of people?
Oh, gosh.
That was the message, probably.
He speaks a lot about love and be bolder in your love. And really and today I just channeled a message from him today that was like, when he speaks about loving, he means love yourself first and then put it out. Because if you don't have it here, there's nothing to give out here. And so he talks about be bolder in it. Be bigger in your love for other people.
Can I just tell you what he's saying to me now? Because again, you're speaking, I'm asking questions, he's answering, right? So how did you manifest that in your body? I said, how did you, when you said be bolder in your love, be more loving, I said, how did you manifest that as a human? And this is what he said. He said, it wasn't a question for me. It was, I never had to love myself because that was so innate. That was so, it wasn't an idea he had to play with. I'm trying to translate, because it was who he was. And so once you establish who you are, your work is all about service. There is no need for, do you like me, or is this okay, or am I lovable? There's none of that interferes with your work.
Well, he had a vision, and it was like, and I am going to do this. Like, he was very clear, and nobody got in his way. He was going to do it, and you were either on the boat with him or you were off the boat. And that was just it.
Yeah. And it looks like incredible self-confidence. This self-love looks like self-confidence. And I tell you what, as a young girl, when I looked at that, I didn't like it. I thought, he's just too eager to. I didn't like it. And the reason I didn't like it was because I wasn't living it. I wasn't, and I see my daughter do that too. When she looks at overly confident people, she finds it like egotistical, like, I don't like that. But it kind of doesn't come from a look at me, look at me, look at me. It comes from a look at me because I have something to teach you. I have something to teach you, to show you, to teach you, not because I need your appreciation and your accolades. I need you to look at me because I've got a message.
Yes, that's exactly right. And there's this video of him in Los Angeles. It's a song called Beginning Endlessly or Endlessly Beginning. I forget which way it is. But he comes out and he says, Los Angeles, are you ready for me? And he stands there and looks at the crowd, and they're all clapping and going crazy. And he goes to each section of the round thing and stands there and looks at that. And it's like there's this beautiful flow between him and them. And he's receiving and putting out. And it's amazing, but it looks like arrogance if you don't really understand.
Exactly.
But he used that video to show one of my clients how she needs to be when she speaks in front of audiences. He said, I dare you to stand up there for 30 seconds and just look at the audience and let them receive you. And she was like, oh my God, no. And he's like, I dare you. She did it. She did it.
You know what he says? He says one of his regrets was that celebrity cut him off from being available to the average person. And what he's really excited about now is that he's now available to the average person.
Yeah, and I want to say this because I hear from so many people who are like, why would he come to me? I'm just like, chugging along.
The average person.
The average person. Yeah. Why would he come to me? And I always say, because you're on this frequency, you're on the wavelength, you're open for whatever reason, you're open, he knows it, he's coming to you. Like, they don't feel worthy of it. And that breaks my heart because it's like, you're completely worthy of any of this, all of this. Why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he come to you? But that's like, they just don't feel worthy of that. And I'm like, I'm no worthier than you are. I just happen to hear him out by the car. You can hear him too. I really, like, people come to me and say, I feel like I'm going crazy because I hear him, and I'm like, well, then join the club. Come to the Crazy Prince Club here, right? And why would you come to me?
I was looking at him for some answers to that, and he's sitting there with his legs crossed, smiling and saying nothing. Like, now you're saying nothing.
Yep.
But so this is what I want to say about that. When you see people channeling Prince, you could go into the thought, oh, because he's a celebrity, you're going to sort of channel him because you're going to ride on the skirt tails of his celebrity. It's an ego thing. But actually, it's not, because the guy's got so much to say.
Yeah, he does.
And he wants to speak to the average person.
He very much does.
Yeah.
Yes, he very much does.
And
the greater reach, that's why he talks to a lot of people, because he's got a really big reach. He's got a big message, and he wants to get it out there, and he wants people to, like, come with him and work, in that energy. So, yeah, he's talking to so many people. I love it. I love hearing it, because I would never put myself out there like I am the one that channels Prince. No, anybody can bring him through. I happen to be very adept like you at hearing and bringing it through. But that's my gift. Okay, cool. And anybody can. I have a friend who hears him all the time, and she will tell you she's not intuitive at all.
Yeah, not a gift, he says. Anyone can do it.
Yeah.
He says an ability humans have, a skill. An ability, a sense.
Yep.
It, we have like senses like eyes and ears, and we can actually, hone that. Like a musician has an ear that after a while becomes completely different. They hear things that other people don't hear because they develop that ability, that sense.
Exactly right.
And that's exactly like the sense that we, intuitive, psychic channeling.
The other piece to that, though, I find for people is trusting it. Okay, so I could have said, like, oh my God, like, I thought I heard Prince out by my car. I'm going crazy. But I knew with every fiber of my being. And so when he comes through in whatever way, whether it's a lyric or he shows up somewhere, trust that. It's showing up for you for a reason. Trust it. Why the hell not? Why not trust it, and go in and see what's there for you. So trust is the other piece that I think people are afraid to trust. They're certainly afraid to at least put that out there, that they're, oh yeah, Prince is talking to me. I'm bold enough to be out there and going, oh yeah, he's talking to me. And he can talk to anybody, and he will happily.
It's interesting that you say that he's on the same lineage as Merlin and Saint Germain. So, when you're trying to do something with your life, I keep going. He's talking to me about the musicians a lot. That's what he's telling me. Like, he might be telling about, more broader, but for me, because I work with Soul Traveller Radio and we interview a lot of conscious musicians, he's speaking to me a lot about the musicians, because he's saying, not only will I help you with your confidence and knowing and trusting that people will love what you do and that you're doing it for them specifically rather than for yourself, like you're doing it as a service. He actually talks about working with the music itself.
Yes.
And he'll help you with the music itself. Like, and he says, all you have to do is ask. All you have to do is ask.
That's really true. Yeah, there's a woman I know who is a beautiful singer, and I met her in an event. And
Right.
she came up, because I talked about Prince, and she came up and she said, you know, I know he's around. I really want to do something. And he said to her, hey, let's write a song together. And she like broke down in tears, like, oh my God. But she knew, like, yep, that's right. And he was like totally like, yep, let's do this.
Let's
and
do this.
It was beautiful. I mean, I can't wait to see what comes out of that, because she really wanted that. She really did.
You know, this speaks to the help that we all have from the other side, all of us.
All of us.
You know, whatever we want to do, whether we want to be mothers or musicians or psychics or New World teachers or, you know, writers or whatever you want to do, you have people on the other side that have lived what you've done well, and they have expertise that you can tap
all you have to do is ask, like you
All you
said.
have to do is
That's
ask.
it. That's all you have to do. And it's so beautiful that it just shows up. It just does. And it's amazing. I mean, I deal with it every day like you do, and I'm always still amazed when I see it, because it's so beautiful to see somebody get it and to see that help just come sliding right on in. It's like, wow. You see the universe in action when stuff like that happens, and it's like, wow, that is so cool. Yeah.
That is so cool. Okay, there's a couple of questions I have, and they're not the most enlightened questions. Somebody wants to know why he was murdered, like who murdered him, somebody said. And so let's talk about, like, this was a question I asked him when he died, like, why did you leave your body at this time? Because there's no such thing as victims, and you know, and there's no one murdered anybody in this case. You know, people do get murdered, but every soul chooses when they exit the body. Stage left, out of here. And like every other soul on the planet, he chose to exit at that time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Has he got anything to say to you about that?
Well, yeah, I hear you fine. Yes. Okay, I got it. So he said that there's a faction of people that have a little bit too much going on up here, meaning they're like little hamsters in a wheel. And so for them, the conspiracy piece of it gives them something to like dig into. He said that's their work. There is something for them to find by going down that avenue, but they may not find what they think they're going to find. But that there's a reason that energy is so potent for them. And I was in a couple of Facebook groups that were like that, and he was like, yeah, you get out of there now. And I was like, okay, because the energy was not, I didn't feel good in that energy. And he said, that's not your path. That's their work. Let them have their work. And you go on your path. So I feel like he knows it's going on, and there's a reason for that. For them, for the people that are called to that energy. There's a reason, and they'll find something. They'll find what they want. Might not be what they think.
He's saying that it's, you know, it's the questioning mind, and you can get caught up in streams of thoughts. Like you have a question and somebody has some answers. Oh, it's a conspiracy, and then you get sort of swept up in this river of thought. And then, you know, if you keep the questioning mind open, you'll find your answers. But he's addressing that from a linear perspective. He says to me, if anyone murdered me, it was myself for not taking care of myself better. He said, of course, I exited when I chose to exit, but I didn't take care of my physical body as well as I could have. Towards the end, he did say. So it would have, you know, if that's just addressing a linear mind point of view. Because he had the power to transmute any illness if he wanted to.
And that's the thing. I mean, I believe that there are certain exit points that the soul has, and he chose into that exit point, I believe. And he has said to me, and you and I talked about this, he can help so much more now from where he is, and he knew that we needed that support. And he wanted to be able to give it in that way. And he had also accomplished a whole hell of a lot in this lifetime, you know, that it was like, and now it's time to go do this other thing. That's kind of the feeling I got with it. They were like, and now it's time to go do this other thing. Okay, so I'll see you later. Bye.
And he's telling me again, and to have more access to the average person.
Right. I agree. Yep.
Because out of his body, he's got more access to them.
Mm-hmm.
And as this celebrity, you know, he's got minders and bodyguards and all that sort of drama.
All of that, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're an average person out there that loves Prince,
yeah, man, call him in.
He's talking to you.
Yeah, he speaks through music, obviously, a lot.
Yeah.
Like, he will tell people, if you feel like you can't hear me, then randomly pick a song. Randomly pick a song, pick an album, pick anything. Just drop something in, and then listen for my message to you in that. And they always get it. They come back and tell me, this is what it was, this is what the message. They get it. So he has a lot of ways of connecting with people beyond just chatting in your head. The music, he shows up in purple. Like, where did we go? I went somewhere and purple was everywhere. And we were like, all right, we know you're here. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can I just tell you something, how he's presenting himself? So I had some beautiful birthday flowers that had lasted weeks, right? And I just threw them outside this morning.
Mm-hmm.
But can you see that flower behind you?
Yeah, they're beautiful.
I took one that wasn't dead yet.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what was funny? I smelt them all and they all smelt dead. Like they'd lost their smell.
Right.
As I was sitting there and you were talking, this massive waft of that flower.
Oh, wow, came through, yeah.
That was him doing that. Because I said this morning, they don't smell anymore. They've lost their smell. And he's just given me their smell.
Yep.
Oh, that was so beautiful.
Yeah, he's just so great at it.
So you can feel him see him, hear him in the music, but you can hear him in the smell too. Yeah. You know, spirit loves, it's a beautiful, subtle energy that they can manipulate really well. Like spirit loves to give you smells. Yep. Like, where's that smell coming from? Where's that smell coming from?
Yep. Yeah. That's cool. That's nice he did that. What a nice guy you are. He has been such a help to me and really encouraging me to step up in my work and help me expand into my potential. So sometimes he works with just me, and sometimes he works with other people through me. And sometimes he works even in a larger way with a group of people. Like, we have a beautiful group, and we donate money to causes. There's a person I know who on the 21st of every month, she does a pay it forward in honor of his departure date. And so she does a pay it forward on the 21st. And so some of us have started doing that too, that's just a beautiful way to share all of that energy. So people are very inspired by him and his life, and they want to carry on that energy. That spirit of giving.
Yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful. Yeah. So what else has he been teaching through you? I was going to get more into your story, but Princess, you've taken over, honey.
He always does. He always, that's fine. That's fine.
He's giggling.
Well, the interesting thing, though, about working with him is that he does like puzzles, and he likes to give you little cryptic things. He did that to me. He said, we're going to build a mystery school together. And I'm like, okay. And so he's like, and it's going to have 7 themes. Okay, so here are the 7 themes. And he had big posters on the wall. And he's like, now I'm going to give you the songs. You got to find the theme in the song. Could you just tell me? No. So for days I spent poring over the lyrics of each song. When I would find the exact lyric, then I would get the theme. And the theme flowed beautifully, like one built on the other. And so we called it the divine equation, because it really was like this plus this divided by this equals all of you. And so he's helping me build a whole training around that, and it's like he gives me those pieces and I go and do the work. So it's beautiful stuff that he's teaching, and it really all just has to do with being the full embodiment of who your soul came here to be, who truly you came here to be. And so that's a lot of what we get in the sessions. What I find interesting in the sessions, because he talks so much that I had to pare it down to 4 people, because we were going on 2 hours with 6 people. And I'm like, oh my God, we're all going to die. So went down to just 4 people, right? And so he gives a group message, and then he gives a message to each person. Everybody gets something from the other person's message, and there's always a theme. Always a theme. Like one of the last ones was he had everybody, fire escape on the side of a New York building, right? There are those black, rickety kind of fire escape stair steps, right? he had everybody moving up to the next stair step. What was there for them? And he talked to them about what was there, and then are you willing to go up the next level? So for each person, he would ask them, what's this next level mean to you? Okay, let's expand it. So it was like that was a theme of how do we move up one level. One time it was love, and just everybody, like people were crying, and because he's so loving in everything that he says. There's no meanness or any, there's nothing. It's just beautiful, like, come on, let's do this. I'll help you. Like, that's the energy that he usually gives people.
Okay, I've been given a couple of things. One of the other questions I got talking about puzzle pieces, somebody said, why did you do it in an elevator? Why did you die in an elevator? And that's a bit of a puzzle piece. What does he say to you about that?
He's telling me how perfectly poetic, wasn't it? I planned it that way. Like, perfectly poetic. Like, yep. Like, he just, like, that's, yes, thank you. What is the thing that means the end of a song? The coda? Is it like the end part of a song? And it's like, here's the song of my life, and then here's the capper. And the end part fit into the beginning part about his songs there. So he's like, what a perfect ending and how poetic. So, yeah, that was on purpose. What's he saying to you about it?
So why the elevator? He's actually sitting there with his mouth shut because he's letting you do the talking.
Oh, thanks.
Because he says, I can talk to you if I want to. But because at the beginning it was a little confusing because he was talking to me and you were talking to me and it was a little confusing. So I said, this is a little confusing. And he piped out. He just piped down, right?
Okay.
So that, you know, from our linear human mind perspective, we can have this conversation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, in the song, Let's Go Crazy, I'm not going to let the elevator take me down, right? Bring me down. So
that's it.
That's the poetic coda.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay. And also, getting back to how easy it is to connect, he asked you when we had that chat the other day to go to, what was his house called? What's his house called?
Paisley Park.
Paisley Park. Yeah. I don't know anything about Prince. That's the irony of this. Like, I was not a fan. And funny, I was saying to someone the other day, I had never thought about Prince since I was young when he was really all over the news and everything. The only way I had thought about Prince was the way the media had presented him. And when he changed, you know, I didn't know about all the problems he was having with music production companies and all that sort of thing. I don't even know how all that works. But and he changed to a symbol from his name, and there was like a political reason for that. There was a whole lot of reasons for that, but the media just presented it as this crazy guy, you know,
wacky,
wacky, crazy. And that, I would look at the media when I was young and I go, oh yeah, you know, crazy, wacky, because I actually wasn't a fan. And that's how I thought about him. And when I found out who he really was after he left his body, I just looked at my ignorance. Like, and how I was so persuaded by the media, and I thought, wow, there was this master incarnate in a body, and I didn't see it. I only saw what the media presented, and I thought, wow, how often do we do that with people? When the media vilifies people because they're strange, they're crazy, they're geniuses. There was no denying his genius. There was no denying his genius. And then we just agree. Again, we get swept up in that river of river of thought.
Right.
And that's what, So a couple of years before he's died, a girlfriend of mine said, oh my God, I went to a Prince concert because he came out to Australia and he did a concert. And I said, did you? Why? And then she said, you know what he said on stage? He said, I bet you don't realize just how many hits I had. And he was just making aware of his genius, and he just rattled off all these hits. And I thought about it and I thought, oh my God, you're right. He had so many hits.
He did,
Yeah. And that genius of him, like, he was so tapped into source that he had, you know, he had just, there is also talk that there are so many songs that were never released because he has
he's got that vault, and there's like millions and millions of songs in there. Yeah, because here's the thing that I understood from a couple different writers that I had heard during a podcast, that he lived in the flow. you know, the flow that we get when we're in that space. He lived there, and that was his sanctuary. So if you were in the flow 24/7, who wants to go clean the cat box when you can be like in the flow, writing and singing? And that's what he was. And I think that shows what you can do when you're able to stay in that state. Now, I think he's told me that, you know, there are some challenges to live in a physical body and be in flow and balance that better, right? But he was 24/7 in the flow. And that's where he hid, like after his son died, that's where he hid. He went back to that space and pretended none of it had happened because he went back into that flow. Because living in the physical world completely like freaked him out.
He had a son that died? I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Like, how old was the son?
A week old. He was born with what's called Pfeiffer syndrome, which is not a fully formed brain. And he apparently was a little restrictive, he was quite restrictive with his wife, Maite, and really didn't want her to go to the doctors, didn't want her to see anybody. God will heal everything. And she knew something was not right. And she tried to tell him and he wouldn't listen. So when the baby was born, physically, the baby came out looking very deformed. And the baby only stayed alive for a week.
Okay, so I want to get back to Paisley Park. Please don't really let me forget that. But why did that, what does he say about that from his
son was his master. His son was his master teacher. And he said, when I held that child for 1 week, I got everything I needed to know. And it changed my life. And his life was very different. He went into the Jehovah's Witness group with that. He took things in a different way than he was going. And so it really shifted him. Yeah. But he's shown me, because we've talked with people who have also lost children, and that's when he'll connect with them. He will connect around that and talk to them about that. Yeah. And so she got pregnant another time and again had the same issues, and he wouldn't let her go to the doctor, and she had a miscarriage, and then that was the end of their marriage entirely. And so I think he just went back into the flow. Like that was where he hid. No offense. That's where
he was talking to me this morning about ego, about being about navigating ego. And he was telling me this morning about how even masters have challenges with ego. And this is what he said to me this morning when I was sweeping the floor. He said, I just want to tell you all that if you have troubles with your ego, if you get swept up, that ego is such a difficult thing to navigate. And that even masters like Jesus and Buddha and all those masters, even they have problems navigating it and get caught up in it.
Well, I think it's only in the physical. In the physical, you have it. You don't have it on the other.
Yeah, I'm talking about being physical.
Right. Yep. Right.
You don't have an ego when you're not physical.
No, but that's why it's a challenge, because you can only experience it here, right? In the physical. Yeah. And so he did have some issues around that.
He wouldn't call them issues as much as it was a challenge. It was a challenge. Yes. It was difficult to navigate. And when you talked about the baby and the master, and he's saying that's when he as you said, went back into the flow.
Yep.
And he's also saying, but he did use the ego to accomplish what he needed to accomplish as a physical human being. And so he used it more as a tool rather than as a part of who he was. Like he used it as a tool. But, you know, so ego is that part of us that forgets that everything is okay.
Yeah.
So when we get angry or frustrated or upset about something, then that's the ego taking control, because the higher self will always show you the beauty of everything.
Yes.
And when you're in the flow, you see the beauty in everything. You see the beauty in the murder. You see the beauty in the tragedy. You see the beauty in everything. But the ego sees the trauma and gets
that's
upset.
right. Yes.
Yeah. And he said, I definitely got upset at things.
Yeah. As any human would. Yep, as any human would. Yeah.
So back to Paisley Park. He asked you to go there. Why did he ask you to go there?
Here's where it happened. I was at an event and I was standing there looking out the window, and it was like he threw a paper airplane at me, like boom. And I was like, what? And he was like, I want you to go to Paisley Park and channel me there. And I'm like, I don't know anybody at Paisley Park. So he's like, all right, well, we'll talk about it. Okay, we will. So when I got back, I was like, okay, he really wants me to do this. Okay, what's the first step? And my friend said, well, why don't you ask him to hook you up with somebody? I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Okay. So I was laying in bed and that half awake, half asleep. And I'm like, can you just send me a name? And it was like he dropped a little piece of paper in front of me with a name on it, Michael Dean. And I said, who is that? And he's like, why don't you Google him? He's always saying that to me. Why don't you Google it? So I did. And I had never heard of this person before. Turns out he has had a long-standing Prince podcast. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. So I for a week, I put off writing him because I thought, what am I going to say to this guy? Like, hey, dude, Prince talks to me from the other side. He gave me your name. And the guy would be like, sure he did, lady. And so I couldn't figure out another way to say it. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to say it. And that's basically what I said. Hi, I talked to Prince from the other side, and I needed a name of somebody who could maybe help me get to Paisley Park. Would you like to have a conversation? And he didn't answer for a week, and I was like, oh my God, that's the
Oh, you emailed that to him?
Yeah, I messaged him on Facebook. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And he didn't answer, and I was like, oh Lord. So Prince said, oh, just write to him and say thanks. Thanks for even considering it. I'm like, oh. Okay, so I did. Thanks for considering it. I know it's out there. And this time he wrote me back, and he said, yeah, it is. How'd my name get in the mix? I'm like, I don't know. He just dropped it down to me. And he's like, that's really odd. I'm like, I know. So we talked a little bit, and he's like, I don't know anybody at Paisley Park, but I can check around. I'm like, that's great. And then he said, do you want to be on the podcast? And I was like, okay, sure. And I thought, oh my God, because my friends are like, oh my God, the Purple Brigade is going to come after you. They're going to tear you to shreds. And I'm like, it's okay. And here's why I went. Despite my fears, and I did have fears about it, I trusted Prince that there was a reason and a purpose behind this, and that he would never send me into a lion's den without being able to take care of whatever came up. So I trusted him implicitly. So I did do the podcast. It was my first time talking outside of my group of my online clients and group of Woo people, talking about this. And Michael Dean was very nice and pretty much let me run with the whole podcast and talk about how it came to be and what I'm doing with Prince and all of that. And it was really interesting what showed up after the podcast. I got so many emails from people, and that's when I started getting emails saying, he talks to me too. Am I going crazy? Like, what happened from that podcast was huge. Like, I can't even begin to tell you how many people it reached. And even just the people that said, oh, thank God I'm not crazy. And thank you for being the one to go out there and say it, because we know he's out there talking to people. Like, that was all behind the scenes. They were not people who were saying it in public. They were telling me personally.
Yeah. He's rubbing his hands because he's saying, that was the point, like get the woo out of the closet.
Yeah. And I knew that, and I trusted him completely. I totally did. And that's the magic of working with him, because he will ask you to do some unusual things. But there's always a reason. This. Yeah, right? There you go. There's always some greater benefit that will come from that. And I've seen it. I trust it. I go with it. I always go with it, because it's a beautiful thing. And people really, they feel his energy, and it's nice to have that affirmed, that that's really what's going on. And nobody's surprised that he's an ascended master. Anytime I say that, everybody's like, yeah, of course he is. Yeah, I kind of figured that. Yeah, we always knew something was going on. I mean, like, they get it. They totally get it. It's really cool. It's very cool. So I don't know if I'm going to Paisley Park. I wouldn't be surprised, but he hasn't shown me that way. But he did say to me, there's a woman that was at the very first group session, and she was his teacher in another lifetime. And so when he addressed her, he like bowed down to her, and she was like taken aback. She didn't expect that. And it took her about 3 weeks to recover. but she hears him all the time now. She talks to him all the time. So I'm driving down the road, and Prince is talking to me about how we're going to go to Paisley Park, and let's do this event and have 3 channels and blah, blah. And he said, and I know who I want one of them to be. And I said, yeah, it's her, right? And he said, yeah, that's it. So I went into my office and I messaged her on Facebook. And I said, Prince says that he'd like you to be one of the channels at Paisley Park. And she's like, yeah, I know it. He already told me like a week ago. I'm like, okay, great. That's awesome. Like, it's so funny when stuff like that happens that they're all like, yeah, I know. He already told me that. Okay, great. We're on the same page. It's fabulous. So she and she lives near there. So I wouldn't be surprised. She and I may end up doing that. We'll see. We'll see.
So what was the story with the tour guide at Paisley Park?
One of the people who came forward and talked to me was, is, I think, still is, a tour guide at Paisley Park.
Right.
And she said, we see him there all the time. He's usually in the studio area. But she said every tour guide has seen him there in one space or another. So when he was talking to her, he said, hey, I'd like to give some of the tours. Well, are you willing to like let me just give the tour? And she's like, I don't channel you. He's like, you can, open your mouth. She was like, okay. So he told her, try it. When you're doing it, do it as you, and then allow me to come forward and see if you can see the difference. And she's done it. And she said, I always know when he's talking about certain things. I'm like, that is so cool. Like, people would like pass out if they knew that really it was him giving the tour of Paisley Park. I just think that's so cool.
He says, yeah, they would pass out, but you know what he wants to affirm is that he's no special than anyone else, and that every human has the potential. And he was someone that just showed humanity their own potential.
Yes. Yes. Yep. That's it.
But what I find fascinating was a tour guide who hasn't done a Reiki course or a channeling course or anything like that is channeling Prince.
Yep.
And he goes, see how easy it is?
It is. And it's that trust. Because she talked to me and he came through me. So it was like she had training wheels on and she could do it. And then she did it on her own. She was fine. You know, all he did was like, okay, let's do it. Okay. And that's where that trust comes in. Just play with it. It's not like deathly serious. Have fun with it. Try it. See what happens.
Okay, he's got a message because this is specifically what he asked me to talk to musicians about money and music, right? Mm-hmm. It's something that he was really passionate about because there's a really huge thought form out there that says, you know, don't give up your day job. You're never going to make money as a musician. You can't do what you love. And he says that's absolute rubbish.
Yeah,
that's absolute rubbish. And he says that you've got to let go of that. You've got to let go of that and be as confident about making money with your music as you are as confident about making the music.
Oh, because yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, that feels exactly right. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Ooh, something that you said to me the other day when we connected that I've been thinking about and he's been talking to me about is he said, I was the music. Mm-hmm. Music and I were one.
Yes.
Do you want to sort of elaborate on that, what he said to you about that? Because that just spoke to me.
Well, because it flowed through him, he would often blend right in. And there are songs, like I'm in another group that, like, these people are amazing, amazing people who look at things down to the finest points. And so they'll show videos, they'll post videos in the group of here's where he like completely blends into the guitar. Like he and the guitar are one, and you can watch it and see it. Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing to see as it flows through him. And so yeah, he was the music that and somebody had said, I read in a book, go ahead.
Well, he's just trying to like make a point. He says it's the same with your abundance. He says money and you are not separate. Abundance and you are not separate. Mm-hmm. Just like you can understand as a musician or anyone, you know, you blending with music and being one with the music, you're also one with your own abundance. Mm-hmm. And he says, feel into that, feel into the abundance that you are and come from that. Not that you need it or you want it,
Right.
or that how are you going to make it with your music, or it's really hard to make a living with your music. He said none of that's relevant. Like, let go of all that, because it's the same as the music. Just as you're as confident with your music and flowing with that, it's the same. He's talking about, it doesn't necessarily have to be music. It can be anything.
Right.
It can be your psychic ability. You and that are one, and it can be anything. It can be, ultimately it's all love. It's all energy.
It is. And because the reason he changed his name was because of his contract with Warner Brothers, and they owned everything under the name Prince. So he's like, all right, I'll go this way. And his whole point was, you should be compensated for your work. And your work should belong to you, right? If you don't, what did he say? If you don't own your masters own you. And your masters being those original recordings that are yours. And so he fought very hard. And he's saying that he set the new paradigm, where you don't have to sell your soul to a music company. And now, certainly with the internet, there's so many ways you can get music out that you don't have to do that. But he's saying that to musicians, like, it's yours. You don't have to sell that to get known.
Exactly. And he's saying, from his broader perspective, he can see so many ways in which, not just musicians, in which anyone, any creative being, anyone that's creating some work.
Right.
So it could be your writing, it can be your music, it could be your art, it could be whatever you're creating. The participatory economy, he's saying, he's saying, just ask me and I'll show you. I'll show you ways. Just ask me and I'm there to show you. He says there's so many ways, and he did. You're absolutely right. He sparked his protest, or his upset, or whatever you want to call it. Wouldn't call it upset, protest. Okay, about that music industry. He did change the face of music industry, but
he was the only one doing that at that time. And like you said, everybody thought he was just wacky. No, he had a reason. He had a solid reason for doing that. And that was a pretty big deal for him to do that. I mean, he walked out with slave written on his face, and he was committed 100% to whatever he did. I know. He's like, I was. I know you were. Commitment's a thing. Commitment's a thing. So he's just a beautiful energy. I am beyond grateful to him for all the support that he's given me in the last year and a half. Opportunities have opened up. He's connected me with people who beautifully need what I can bring through. Like, that's their first connection with things woo. And they're such so they want to know, they really are interested, and he has been the doorway for that. And I've seen so many beautiful people like open up into their abilities through him and that doorway. It's just been beautiful, and he works with a lot of people in all different ways. And I hear that. He said, don't be afraid to call me just for yourself. It doesn't have to be like, oh, it must be for the benefit of mankind. No, if you want me to help you in whatever you're doing, whatever it is, I'm there. It just so happens my work, Lisa's work, is bigger, and yours is reaching a greater, broader audience, but that's not what he does for everybody. So call him in. When we do sessions together, it's Prince. Archangel Michael is always there. Archangel Michael is my buddy, and he's always there with Prince. And Merlin, that's how I came into the connection, because Merlin kept butting in the Prince's sessions all the time. And finally, we had to give Merlin his own show so he could talk to people, because he had like things he wanted to teach them or whatever. So Prince is like, could you get your own show? So we did a whole Merlin. We did an afternoon with Merlin, and it was great. And then he like left Prince's energy alone. But it's so funny because he would always roll in all the time. I'm like, Merlin, why are you here again? It's so funny. It's fun.
So Merlin, I asked what Merlin teaches, and he says pretty much what I teach. I teach people how to flow energy. He said, I teach people about the magic of energy alignment, vibrational alignment. He said, back in the day they used to call it magic, but actually it's just there's like a whole science to it, and it's like what we call technology today is yesterday's magic.
Right.
But it's conscious technology. It's a consciousness technology. Right. And Prince said something about channeling too. He said, because this has been really sort of like own your woo-woo. I've been really passionate about not calling it woo-woo anymore, because woo-woo means that it's not mainstream, and we've got to make this technology of being an intuitive and a channel and an empath and a medium and talking to the other side or channeling, all that is just, it has to be mainstream now, because it's who we are. Right. And he said, just as I would channel the music, you can channel me. It's really that simple. It's just a musician channels music, a writer channel. They might not understand it, but they get in a creative flow. An artist channels where they're in that place where their hand moves beyond their thought. It just happens. And it's so easy and it's so simple. And he said, just like a musician channels music, you can channel me.
And when I write and channel, so I could be typing and looking out the window, like my Lisa brain's looking out the window, and I'm just typing away, and then I look, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. It was like it just came like right through. And that's really cool. And it is just that easy. It's just that easy. And I think that's a big message for people to get. Everybody can do this. It's not just for special people. Everybody can. It takes practice. It takes trust, for sure.
Yeah, trust. A trust, he said he could talk about trust all day.
I'm sure he could.
And knowing that, so this is what he's saying to me. Think about something that you know you can do. He says, do you need to trust it? No, because you know you can do it. He said, that's a quality of trust. Let's call it a quality of trust. He said, when you know that you can do it, you'll do it.
That's true.
It doesn't actually even take trust, because you just know it as your truth.
Cool. Very cool. He's a chatty one tonight, for sure. He's chatty. I've had people say, oh, he's very quiet, and I'm like, are you sure you're talking to Prince? Because he's like,
he can be quiet. Like he shut up before. Like he was chatting away before, and I said, this is confusing. Like there's so many talking people, and he just sat on my chair. He's sitting on my chair over there, and he just crossed his legs, and he's like swinging his legs, just like
just having a conversation.
People are like, how can he be in two places at once?
You know what I had a friend say to me, like, does he know when you're doing a session, do you pick up like a phone or what, like a bat phone or whatever? I'm like, no, they're everywhere all the time. Like, that is a hard concept for some people to grasp. I'm just like, what? Why aren't you getting that? Right? But he's everywhere all the time. He can be with me, he can be with you. He is obviously with me and with you and with anybody who's watching this, or anywhere, It can be everywhere at all times, always.
He's giving me an analogy. He says that whenever you're outside of time, so when, as linear humans, as physical human beings, we're inside a linear perspective of time. Right. And he said, but let me give you an analogy. Today with technology, it's a beautiful analogy. He said some TVs have the ability of showing a whole lot of stations all at once. So you're watching all these different stations at once. And he says that's a little bit, that's a kind of like an analogy. I can be I can be watching all at the same, because he's outside of time. So there's no such thing as, we try and perceive non-physical from a linear physical point of view, and it just doesn't work.
No.
You have to understand that outside of physical dimension, perception of physical dimension, because it's all just a perception.
Right.
There's no such thing as time and space. It's all in the spacious now.
Everything spacious now. Yep. In the now. Yeah. That's how I understand it too.
Yeah. So he says that from that perspective, all things are possible, and he can see into your future, and he can see into the past, and so he has this broader view. You want to know something? Just ask.
Yeah. That's exactly right. And
Not
he
just
will
him,
answer.
but
You know, and he is actually pretty magical when it comes to getting things that you need. I had an occasion where the only airplane seat that was left was a middle, and I hate middle seats. And I'm like, dude, can you help me with this at all? He's like, yeah, close your computer, come back in 10 minutes. I did, and magically another seat appeared. And I'm like, how'd you do that? And he's like, I'm magic. I'm like, okay, great. He got that. He found me cheap office space, right? Just down the road from me. I'm like, thank you. Awesome. Thank you. Ask for it. That's what I did. I asked, hey, help me with this. He's like, okay, do this. Okay, fine. So yeah, he's a lot of fun. He's very magical. He's my little magical elf. So yeah.
Well, magic, getting back to magic, because we're getting back to Merlin. So magic is a broader perspective. He said, I can see that person's going to cancel in 10 minutes, so I can tell you to shut your computer and can't. Nothing magic about it, but from your perspective it is, right? You can't see, right? Right. It's like magic to you.
Yes, yeah.
He said, but it's all perspective. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's why I asked him, because I know he can do that. So it's like, can you help me with this? If he can, cool. If he can't, that's okay too. But he comes through every time in some way. He comes through. Yeah, he's fun. He's a lot of fun. I find him fun. My friend has his eye shows up all the time in her meditations, like just this one eye. And I saw this beautiful painting online that somebody had done of just his eye. And I'm like, yeah, I'm getting that for her. Like, it was one of a kind. It was one painting. I'm like, I don't care what it costs. I'm getting that for her. Because I knew there's a reason his eye is always showing up for her in this meditation. It's just, it's so fun. And he does it all the time. She'll even go out and there'll be posters of him out there with the eye. And she's like, all right already, I see you. So he loves his puzzles and his cryptic messages and all of that. Yeah.
So here's a question. I've already asked him this question, but I'm going to pose it to you. Are there other, ascended masters is not really a name, but we have to find a name. Are there other people like him on Earth at the moment?
Sure, absolutely. Why wouldn't there be? We just happen to live, that's how I understand it. We just happen to live in the same time as him. Some people happen to live in the same time as Merlin or Count Saint Germain or whomever. So, I would definitely say there are many, thankfully, many walking around. We just happen to know him because he was very famous, but there are some not very famous people.
Okay, so this is what I asked him. Because I was so deluded by the mainstream media narrative, which was fear-based and suppressive, I said, okay, so he's just saying, open your eyes, just open your eyes. So are the other ascended masters incarnate at the moment? And he's like, many, 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 many. And I said, well, who? And he said, open your eyes. And I'm like, just tell me, give me a name.
You gotta see him.
He's just saying, instead of being swept up in a narrative that says that person's crazy or, like weird or, and he says, I know many of them. Yeah. So he says, he says, open the eye to your heart.
Because you'll feel it. It won't be up here. You get it. It'll be here.
You'll see it from here. It's like he's just put a big heart. He's just put a big eye here, like a big eye. I'm seeing his T-shirt. I'm seeing T-shirts with eyes over people's hearts. So I say, there's a business.
There it is. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
If you ever look at his videos, when he wants to thank people, he always puts his hand to his heart and he like taps his heart like 3 times. And I think he got some video honor or something, and it was Alicia Keys and somebody else, a big boy, and somebody else that presented it to him, and he just like did that heart thing. Like he always puts his hand on his heart and taps his heart, and it's like he's giving that out. I've seen him do it in concerts. I've seen it everywhere, and it's like, oh, it's so beautiful to see that energy. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up. We've been going for about an hour. Is there any last messages from Prince? Anything he'd like to tell people?
He's saying that if he has to leave with one message, it would really truly be more of you. Be more of you. Yep, I know. Be more of you. And he did this big, like, expand yourself into all of you. Because what's possible for him in his life is equally possible, like what he said earlier. It's equally possible for all of us, but we don't all come knowing that. So what if we knew that is possible for us? Maybe not to be famous, but to expand into that space. What's possible if you just take one step into that greater space? And that's the work that he and I have been doing. He's helped me expand into a greater space. And there's more to go, I'm sure. But what if you just took one step? I hear you. He said, sometimes one step is just enough. And there's no more you need to do beyond just one step. Sometimes, yes, I know. Sometimes one step is the biggest step you will take in your whole life. And what will come from that will change everything. Oh, I like that. That's nice.
That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's beautiful. And he's just telling me not to be scared of people. He says there's a lot of musicians out there that are just so wrapped up in their music, and they kind of just want to be all about the music and not about the people. He said, you know, what are you creating the music for?
Yeah.
You're creating it for the people. He says, don't be scared of people. We're all one. He said, when you stand on stage or when you're in front of a group of people, he said, you're just in the room with yourself.
Yeah.
They have the same fears and the same ideas, and they're just humans like you. He said, don't be scared of people. And something that he said in the physical, I saw on an interview, and he said in the non-physical, is that he never wanted to call his fans because it stands for fanatic. And he said, I don't want you to be fanatical. If you're going to be fanatical about yourself.
Right, yeah.
He said that I wanted to call them family or friends. My fams or my friends. Yeah. Instead of my fans. Yeah.
And that's how they refer to themselves, as fams. Across all the boards I've been on, they all call themselves fams, which I think
family.
is very sweet. Yeah, family.
Yeah, people are your family, so don't be scared of people.
Yeah.
They're your family.
Yeah. So reach out to him. If you need anything, he will answer and support and help you. He's got a lot to give. And so please, yes, I hear you. He said, please take what you need. It does not deplete me. In fact, it fills him up. When you take from him, it fills him up even more so that there's more to give. So don't think like, oh, Prince wants me to go away because he's got somebody else to help. Nope. He's got more than enough for you and everybody else. So don't hesitate to reach out to him. Yeah, I know. Yeah. He said, please tell them that. Yes. Yep. So reach out to him. Who knows? Who knows what cool stuff can happen, right?
Well, Lisa, it's been so gorgeous. I haven't really shared much of your story. Prince has taken over, but it's been so good being in your energy, because it's so beautiful. The way he's talking to you and talking to me at the same time just exponentially has expanded that energy. And did you notice that all those, well, actually you didn't notice, but all those technical difficulties that I had stopped.
Really?
They all stopped.
That's interesting.
It is interesting. It actually stopped when you press the recording, and I had forgotten to press the recording, and then I pressed the recording. I thought, oh, but anyway, you've got it recorded. But thank you.
Cool, you're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity, and I thank Jenny for connecting us. That was beautiful.
Yes, thank you, Jenny. Yeah, thanks to Jenny's beautiful. Isn't Jenny beautiful? And also just tell people who are on audio your website where people can find you.
You can find me at lisamw.com. And my work with Prince is also on purplesaturation.com.
Purplesaturation.com.
That's his word. He wanted saturation. I'm like, I don't like that word. He's like, is this about you? Oh, okay, no. So purple saturation it is.
Hey, I'm saturated today.
There you go. That's right. You're definitely saturated.
Here we go.
Sister Mary Purple.
Sister
All
Mary.
right. That's it. There we go.
Isn't Lisa wonderful? Don't you just love her? So we had a bit of a chat and we thought we'd love to do this again. We thought it was so much fun. So I'm going to invite you to jump on. Maybe you've got some questions about how to channel, or maybe you've got some questions for Prince, or you'd like to know how to connect with loved ones on the other side, or mystery school, or anything. So I'm going to invite you to jump on. We're going to do another session. We're going to invite people to participate, and we're going to bring in, as Lisa calls him, Ascended Master Prince to teach. He's a very enthusiastic teacher, let me tell you. They say we all are. So this is a special invitation for you to come on. Thanks again for listening to another show, Accentuating the Positive. It's always a pleasure to bring you this. And remember, if you want to join our little inner sanctum, where you get to meet many of the people I speak to on the show, and you get to experience more channelings, and we have meet and greet and have a little tribe, a beautiful community of people who I call the New World Teachers, people who want to share their wisdom with the world, but maybe don't exactly know how. Seems to be a lot of people awakening in the group at the moment, so come in. It's a great group. And if you want a session from me, please go to my website and find out how to do that. Thanks again for watching. Love you all. Bye for now.
Thanks so much for joining us for another enlightened conversation on Accentuate the Positive. If you would like spiritual guidance from my guides, Blissful Beings, go to KarenSwain.com for a reading, or to listen to more enlightened thought leaders share their wisdom. Go to the listen page on KarenSwain.com and choose who you want to listen to. All the podcasts are also available on iTunes. Remember to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, you name it, we're there. Until next time, bye for now.
If you feel like that's what you want,